Is there a positive spin the Kings could put on the Demarcus Cousins trade? How does Boogie help the Pelicans? What can we expect from the Kings going forward? The only question left is, say it with me, you win? Hey sports fans, Coach Nick here, and welcome to the B-Ball Breakdown podcast, which is also being simulcast immediately on Periscope and Facebook Live. So great to have everybody here. As always, I'm joined by Dave DuFour. It's a Sunday special thing, and we're here to talk a little bit about the Mike Conley's floater, right?
No, yeah, I think that's all. The only thing happening today, right?
Yeah, I did a really cool video, and I talked all about his floater, and people kind of freaked. It was great.
We have nothing else to talk about. Hey, you know what? We probably shouldn't even do a podcast.
Well, should we? Did you check Twitter tonight?
No, I actually haven't been on Twitter at all tonight.
Okay.
Holy crap, man! Boogie Cousins.
Don't tell me he got traded.
For Langston Galloway, Tyreke Evans, Buddy Hield, New Orleans first and New Orleans second. I'm sure some more, ancillary moving parts will be in there, but oh my God, this ruins trade deadline day. It's ruined now.
Well, right. Well, because they can't trade Boogie again, right? He's definitely off the table for Thursday.
I get. Well, not necessarily, but I can't imagine trading for Boogie and then get rid of him.
I'm pretty sure there might be a rule about that where you can't trade a guy that quickly. But either way, all right, so let's go over this again. We got Boogie Cousins for a lot of nothing. This is one of those pennies in the dollar kind of trades that Bill Simmons would call them. That said, you're almost never going to get the value of a Boogie Cousins in theory. And then it's rare that you have a guy as singularly talented as him and also as locker room killing as him as well. So you're going to get a trade-off both ways. Dave, break it down again. What are the pieces for this trade?
Okay, it's Buddy Hield, Tyreke Evans, who's an expiring, he's in there to make the contracts work, and Langston Galloway, 2017 first and second from New Orleans. For Boogie, and I'm sure Omri Caspi might be in there or someone like that, right? All the details aren't coming out. And I apologize in advance, guys, because I'm reading. Because all of this stuff is just happening right now, and I'm checking out Woj's Twitter page and all that stuff. My phone is blowing up. I've got texts coming in from all sorts of people. Shout out to Michael Schwartz and Amit Barrow because they're texting me right now asking me what the hell is happening. So Langston Galloway is going to be waived, but again, this is all about making those contracts match. The big moving parts are Buddy Hield, the 2017 first and second, and Demarcus Cousins. Tyreke is an expiring deal. Langston Galloway was on a really, really nice contract. As a matter of fact, I mean, if I were the Kings, I'd be looking to move Collison and maybe keep Galloway because the production levels aren't that different, and the cost savings would be tremendous.
I guess so. I mean, I like Collison, and he's been around. And although Collison would be the playmaker they're looking for in Cleveland,
that's true.
Now here's the dumb stuff about this overall is that Boogie's on an expiring contract, and they're going to definitely not sign an extension. They're going to test the free agent market, and so now you're talking about a Pelicans outfit which hasn't sort of inspired any kind of cultural inspiration of this is where I want to go and be and stay the rest of my career. And so I don't know if I want to call it a rental, but it kind of is a rental. And now we're dealing with the notion that he could leave, and they basically given away. I mean, I like Buddy; he's a nice piece, but
he's not a superstar.
Yeah, and by the way, it's in respect to that. Because this first-round pick, let's say they're going to make the playoffs in theory with Boogie and Anthony Davis, right? So their first-round pick, what's that?
They might, but their first-round pick is going to be not a high lottery pick. This is highway robbery. Look, if the Chris Paul trade that never happened, the one we don't talk about, if that was shot down for basketball reasons. This one is far more one-sided. Far more one-sided.
Yeah.
This is maybe we need to step in. I mean, look, if Adam Silver didn't like, or if they didn't like Hinkie in Philadelphia because they didn't like what he was doing, at least Hinkie was doing it on purpose. What the Kings are doing is just stupidity. There's no other, like, they have no idea what they're doing. They need the keys to the car taken away from them.
Yeah.
This is a disaster.
Yeah. There's no question. I agree with that without question. It's not a good deal. They're going to get a low first-round pick and then just fodder. Buddy Hield is something, but not. You should be getting like a premier player back. Maybe it's not an all-star like an established starter or someone who scores like 20 a game. Like they should have gotten C.J. McCollum for that or something, at least, right?
Right. That level of talent. Now, or you're shooting for super high upside. Buddy Hield was a 4-year player. Like, we kind of know who Buddy Hield is going to be. The idea that the Lakers wouldn't trade Brandon Ingram, this is the report tonight, that the Lakers wouldn't include Brandon Ingram in a deal. I'm sorry, but that's stupid. The Lakers were dumb for not including Brandon Ingram because DeMarcus Cousins is a superstar. He's one of the 15 best players in the league. He is a franchise-changing player. Now, there's certainly the attitude and mental aspects that you have to deal with. But in my opinion, he's the kind of guy that you want your culture. And Luke Walton has, that's why they brought him in, right? Like, he's a culture guy.
Did you mention that the Kings are going to get another first round in 2019 as well?
I did not. Okay, so again, this is still developing. Like, the deal is it's trickling out.
David Aldridge just now is saying that the stunning acquisition for New Orleans, which will send its first-round picks in 2017 and 2019, along with players. So the question then is the 2019 pick could be worth something if Boogie leaves, and now they don't have any more first-round picks.
Well, this is the kicker with this whole deal, is that now and Omri Caspi was included in the deal. So
I think I'm included in the deal, by the way, Dave.
Yeah, we're all getting traded. I could have traded for Boogie Cousins. If this is all it took, I could have traded for Boogie Cousins. I had more assets than they got. So the deal is, this summer Sacramento was going to have to give Boogie a 5-year, $200 million deal. That's a hell of a commitment. And I think that they just weren't sold on that. Not just the money, but the years. And so, if you're trying to really change your culture and you feel like Boogie is not going to contribute to it, I get it. You got to get out from under it. But it's hard for me to believe that Boston couldn't have given a better deal than this. That Nets pick is worth more than everything. If they could have traded Boogie for just the Nets pick and they get more than they got in this trade.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're right. It's this notion that, that they just needed to get rid of him from the locker room. I mean, I've seen it. I've been in practices before, and I've seen Boogie lose his shit, and it is a problem, and it's worthy of like, hey, he's going to hold us back. But this also just reeks of, and we talked about this earlier this weekend, saying, oh, we're going to start to hear stuff because the trade deadline is usually not so close to the All-Star game. The All-Star game was kind of late this year, probably because of President's Day. They wanted to use that President's Day weekend. But so as a result, that's why the GMs they're all together. They're all hanging out, having drinks over in between the All-Star festivities. So, but here's the thing: like, it just reeks of Vivek. Just sort of like, his mind is just all agita, and he doesn't know he can't keep it straight. He doesn't know what he wants to do, and he just is going to impulsively make this deal. It's weird. It doesn't make a lot of sense at all, and it's too bad. The Kings franchise is going to be doomed. It sounds like.
Well, they're definitely taking a step back, but sometimes you got to take a step back to take a step forward, and in a lot of ways, the DeMarcus Cousins kind of soap opera has made what the Kings have been doing even worse, right? Like, to have a player of his talent and then not be able to win with him. Now, this is an indictment. Like, as far as I'm concerned, this whole trade and everything about it is an indictment of the Kings organization as a whole. Now, not that Boogie is free from blame, but this is very much on the organization. The organization has to make this stuff work. They have to put good players around them. They have to, do these things to kind of facilitate winning, right? And they haven't done that. And now that they've traded him for nothing, or not nothing, it's not nothing, but it's close to nothing. They they're on the hook 100%. They can't blame it on Boogie anymore.
Yes, that is true. I mean, it seems like it's full tank mode now, trying to get. I mean, but again, those 2 first-round picks can't possibly be what the best they could have gotten. Woj is also saying there are mild protections on New Orleans' 2017 first-round pick, but yeah, the bottom line is New Orleans. I can't imagine they're not gonna make the A spot now. It just seems like they have a really good shot at that, and I can't believe any protection would say you can't have the 20th pick in the draft or whatever. That seems silly.
Yeah, I look, as far as I'm concerned for the Kings, this is someone asked for a trade grade for the Pelicans. For the Pelicans, this is an A+. Is the greatest one-sided trade in the history of the NBA. Actually, I take that back. It might be second to the Barkley trade. Okay.
What happens though, Dave? Wait. What happens if somehow? And by the way, the biggest problem I'm having with this trade, as far as in New Orleans, is I can't even in my mind's eye picture Boogie and Anthony Davis playing together. That's just I can't make it work. So, but let's just say it worked really well, and they shoot out to like the 6th seed. And they win they upset in the first round, right? Because they get every rebound. What would happen? Like maybe Boogie then stays like that. There could be something good on that end as well. I mean, I guess the bottom line is, I don't want to. I feel like no matter what, New Orleans is going to win, right? That's what we're saying.
Yeah, they win no matter what. Look, here's the thing: they didn't give up much. They really didn't. And so even if. Let's say Boogie leaves this summer, which he could. I mean, his agent even said, we're not making any guarantees that we're going to re-sign with a team that trades for him. Well, which is part of why
any agent that doesn't say that is fired in 2 minutes. So, but
right, because what they want is that 5-year, $200 million deal. Now that's out the window. So, I don't know. This is I'm a little like caught off guard by this trade. I mean, it started developing over the course of the last couple of hours, but I thought it was a classic case of, we're close to a deal and we're trying to drive up the value. There was no way I thought we were getting a deal tonight, especially like you said, with all of the GMs and coaches and everyone in New Orleans. I figured this would drag out at least through tomorrow.
Right. It definitely.
It is one of the most one-sided trades I can think of definitely in recent memory.
General reminder that, the league still needs to approve this deal, just like they didn't approve the Chris Paul trade earlier. So, although can you foresee that happening at some point where tomorrow the league office is going to say no?
I can't imagine that the league office will say no. I mean, if they did this, especially when you consider the difference in time and how there's more spotlight on the NBA now than there was with the Chris Paul trade, and NBA Twitter would just go ablaze if they denied this trade.
Right.
But a little bit, just to talk a little bit about the on-court stuff, since that's kind of, I mean, we're coaches, right? This is what we're supposed to talk about.
Yeah.
Boogie's ability to step out and shoot threes kind of makes this interesting. I think that it really does. I mean, he and Anthony Davis don't have to occupy the same spaces. So this is sort of interesting. I'm not quite sure how it will work from an X's and O's standpoint. I know Alvin Gentry's philosophy, I think, pretty well. We've seen it, right? Like we know what the way he coaches. It's gonna be interesting. I'm excited to see what happens, and they'll actually have a practice or two before they have a game. So
yeah, well, okay, so that's interesting to say because with who is left, we know that Drew Holiday will be starting. We know Anthony Davis and Boogie will be in the front court. We know who else? Tyreek hasn't been playing much anyway. He's been injured, but like what's their starting five at this point?
Well, I mean, I imagine Solomon Hill probably starts at the 3.
Okay.
You got Drew Holiday.
Lance?
No, Lance is in Minnesota on Sunday.
Oh, I forgot. He already went to Minnesota.
Right.
I'm looking at their rosters. Yeah, I just watched them. Yes. I mean, who's going to start at 2 guard for them?
That's a good question. I mean, I imagine they'll start rolling out 10-day contracts.
Yeah. And that's not a good position to be in if you're fighting for a playoff spot.
No. Agenza got a bunch of minutes the other night, and I thought it looked like a classic try to drive up his value game.
Right.
So I would guess Agenza is probably on his way out of town. So they're probably going to try to fill out the roster with other guys, like that way. But they definitely could use it too. Pondexter's not going to get it done.
Hey, what we always do in our Periscopes is a really fun little experiment. Is we usually say, okay, everybody at the same time, we're going to hit that share button and let everybody know over on your Twitter feeds that we're in this awesome podcast recording live show about the Boogie trade. So, hey, everybody, why don't we do that right now? Just hit that button that says, the upward arrow. Share this on Twitter. Share it all across the land, and let everyone know we're in this, because this is a great conversation with a ton of people, more than we've ever had before. So let's keep doing that now. Okay, so there's a serious starting five problem, and then once we talk about what the starting five is going to be like, well, then there's a bench problem too. So this is an issue. Like New Orleans is going to, it might not necessarily improve a lot. I don't know.
So all right, so I'm looking at the roster, and here's what I would guess. I would guess you have Drew Holiday, Etuan Moore, Solomon Hill, Anthony Davis, DeMarcus Cousins. And then that still leaves you've got Monty Eunice, you've got Terrence Jones coming off the bench, you got Tim Frazier as the backup point guard, Dante Cunningham is there. So you've got some guys, Quincy Pondexter, you've got some guys, but I think that they probably need another piece or two. And I would not be surprised at all if this is the first of a few trades that they have. Now, I don't think they're going to trade Anthony Davis. I hope not. When I first saw the trade, I was like, oh, my God, they're going to trade Anthony Davis for DeMarcus Cousins. That's terrible. I still think they may not make the 8th seed. I think the Nuggets are going to be the 8th seed. I think the Nuggets, top to bottom, feel like a better team to me. But we won't know until we get to see it. We've never seen a guy like Anthony Davis and a guy like DeMarcus Cousins play together. There's no comp for this.
Right. That is absolutely true. And so now... Yes. Right. We've never seen. I mean, there's got to be.
Good point.
Any kind of twin tower scenario we've seen in the past has never included anybody who can shoot threes.
Yeah. Good point is that Omri Caspi is coming to New Orleans too. And if there's one coach in the league that can use Omri Caspi, it's Alvin Gentry. I think he will. I think we'll actually see a little bit of him. I wouldn't be surprised if we see him in some small ball lineups next to Davis and sometimes just next to Cousins. This is, good point. BK Finest 91. This is a fantastic trade for New Orleans. This sets New Orleans up really, really well for the future. Drew Holiday is a very good point guard. They're going to have to sign him to a max deal this summer to keep him, but they've got his bird rights. They've got Boogie's bird rights. This is actually something. I mean, if they had this team all year, they're at least a 6th seed, I think. On paper.
Yeah, right. The bottom part of the bracket in the Western Conference is very weird and up and uneven and all over the place. So yeah, that could certainly be something that could work for them. Let's move over to the Kings for a second to look at what's going on there, because now they're bringing in. I have to imagine they're going to have way too many players. They're going to have to cut players, either the guys they traded for or people who are already on the roster. It sounds like. How can you foresee that? How's that going to play out?
Well, all right. I imagine this means that they're not going to try to re-sign McLemore. Buddy Hield is going to be their 2 guard.
For sure.
I don't know, man. This is just such a weird trade for a team that has limited talent anyway. To get rid of your by far your most talented player is never a good idea.
Yeah.
Unless they're going to try. I mean, they're going to bottom out. They keep their pick if it's top 10 this year. And so, they're going to have a couple of picks that, potentially 2 lottery picks in this draft, it's a deep draft. I don't know, man. I don't see the way forward here. Papa Giannis has looked decent in the 7 minutes I've watched him play, but it was garbage time. So, right. What does that mean? I assume this means Costa Koufos is the starting center for now, with Papa Giannis as the, point guard or the center of the future. Ty Lawson has been pretty good for them this year. I know that they wanted to move Collison, so I expect some more dominoes to start falling. This is the biggest trade since the Carmelo Anthony trade as far as one player, And so, I'm pretty excited to see what happens in the next few days, which hopefully means we're going to have a very exciting live show on Thursday.
That's right. And don't forget, everybody, we are having a live show broadcast right here on Periscope and Facebook and YouTube and everywhere for the trade deadline, about an hour before the trade deadline ends, where we'll be going over whatever's breaking and comes in for that section. You'll be able to keep up to date with a lot of good analysis. So don't miss us this Thursday coming up in 3 or 4 days. The trade deadline will have that as well. And also, don't miss, I did do a really cool video, I wasn't kidding, in the very beginning about Mike Conley's floaters, his right-handed floaters that drive me insane. And I finally did the definitive dive into them and showed you why they aren't as good as you might think that they are. And I also had a really cool solution for him that would actually make him a much better floater. Did you happen to see it, Dave, or are you busy today?
I did watch it today. Luckily I had a nice lazy Sunday, so I watched it. I watched it this morning, and I think you're right. I mean, if Conley would start going off 2 feet instead of the wrong-footed, and what's weird is that he shoots it with his right hand when he's left-handed. So I agree completely, and it's a fantastic video, and it really points out, to me, it points out some of those finer details that unless you have the coach's eye, you don't see, right?
Right, exactly. And my coach's eye always goes to either 1 foot or 2 foot, what's going on there. And it was cool to break them all out this year and see that he's shooting 9 points better off of both feet than he is off of one. And that's the math all I needed to see.
Well, so someone just mentioned Dell Demps. I think that Dell Demps is like the executive of the year for this trade. This is such an incredibly one-sided deal. I don't think I could even say this enough. If we could have called this the one-sided deal, because it's really that ridiculous. It's incredible. I'm really caught off guard by it.
Right. Well, here's the problem. It's like I almost feel like we have to go over it again because we have a lot of people who just joined us, and they're again. We might be included in this deal the way this is going because they keep adding them. So we need to kind of get this straight. What's the latest? Like I don't know, who do we trust at this point? Mark Stein, Wojnarowski. Who are we supposed to be looking at this point?
I'm gonna go with Woj. Woj has never led me astray. So Woj is reporting Buddy Hield, Tyreke Evans, Langston Galloway, the 2017 first, 2017 second, and a protected 2019 for Boogie Cousins and Omri Caspi. The report is Langston Galloway will probably be waived.
Okay. Now,
no
Langston Galloway.
Jake Anderson says no 2019. Okay, so I was reading that's not right.
Okay,
so that 2019 is not in there.
Great. So Aldridge can't be trusted ever.
There you go.
I knew I couldn't trust him. I guess I should just go to Woj's Twitter feed. I'm sort of all over the place online right now looking at it. But okay, so again, with that second first round pick, it kind of like, okay, at least you're getting closer to what the value should have been for Boogie. But if it's not included, and if they're going to have a protection on that first one, do we know if it's going to be a protected first or not?
It is not protected, at least as far as I know.
Okay. Because that would be also key. That would really make it. You know what? If it was a protected first round pick, then you know that Vlade has no idea what he's doing.
Right. Well, so here's the thing. I think Vlade's reputation. Look, Vlade is going to be on his way out. Let's just put it that way. They're not signing anyone. His reputation took a huge hit because up until this afternoon, he was denying that this was going to happen.
Right.
And agents hate that. I mean, he was telling DeMarcus's agent that he wasn't being traded. So his credibility is taking a real hit. And that's a big deal, man. You are your reputation in the NBA.
Yeah.
And it's true.
But agents know that they lied to. I mean, I hear you, and I also think that agents, it's a business, and
everybody's.
They're not going to not take a lot of money if it's a situation for their client where they like it. Now that said, I would imagine a lot of agents, if they're talking about a free agent going to Sacramento, would probably say, hey, you shouldn't go there for basketball reasons, as opposed to just because I hate Vlade or I don't trust him. But either way, it's the only thing I want to defend with the Kings is that like those kind of trades are never right. They never really are fair or never really a great deal for the team trading. Like Kareem when Milwaukee traded him and they never got like full value. It's a similar kind of idea there where but either way. I suspect they had heard other deals that were better. I mean, I'm not even aware. Like, did you hear any details of any other trades that they were trying to pitch for Boogie?
There were some other reports out there, but nothing concrete. Not like this. I mean, obviously this trade, but nothing concrete. To me, like Danny Ainge, like it's amazing that Danny Ainge wasn't saying, "Hey, I'll send you the Nets' first pick."
Yeah,
it's going to be it's top 3 pick.
Because Boogie, they would send the Nets pick, and they would have had to send like either like Crowder or Bradley and like Smart or something like that. Like that would be the equivalent of what they got from New Orleans now. It sounds like, right? Something like that. That actually puts the Celtics back in contention. With the Cavs, I would imagine.
If they could have gotten Boogie, I think that they would be favored in the East.
Well, you can't ever not favor LeBron, can you?
Well, that's true.
But they'd be the favorites to give them a game or give them a series over our Wizards. But you're right. It's very strange, and I wonder what Danny Ainge is thinking right now because yes, there's no question he was probably throwing stuff out. And by the way, they also spurned him with the Heat deal, or I'm sorry, with the Justice Winslow pick as well earlier when he was offering all that stuff, and Charlotte wouldn't give up that pick. So it's like. I don't know. I guess people don't want to deal with Danny Ainge, or they don't trust him. I don't know. Something was weird because those are some good deals they were willing to give up and can't make it. Couldn't pull a trigger.
Well, apparently Danny Ainge has overvalued Terry Rozier.
Yeah.
And
that was a sticking point, right?
He lost out on Ibaka for not including Terry Rozier. So I mean, it must be that Sacramento was like, look, we get Rozier or you don't get Boogie, because I just cannot imagine that Danny Ainge wasn't involved in Demarcus Cousins trade talks.
Yeah. And Rozier, no. Like the only argument should have been like, we want Jay Crowder or else the deal's falling. Like that's the deal. Okay, maybe you say yes or maybe you say no, but who knows what that really is. And we'll have to kind of wait for the book to come out or something. I'm sure we'll hear some more details when the trade deadline's over. Like those usually leak out, and we hear some more of those potential trades. But this is crazy kind of stuff, and it's weird. Collison is, Tyreek Evans is now back in Sacramento, and what am I saying? He is now. I am so confused now.
Tyreek Evans is coming home.
Yes, he's now coming back to Sacramento. I'm correct, right?
That's right.
Okay, so
Tyreek Evans is going home.
So that's interesting as well because that's where he won the Rookie of the Year. And where he's probably played the best ball of his career so far. A different coach, different situation, but I wonder if that's going to do anything for him.
Look, Tyreek Evans, the health stuff has been an issue the last couple seasons. So I don't think he's really changed all that much as a player. It's more health, right? Yeah. He's been healthy. He'll probably be fine. But really, the Kings are just irrelevant right now. That's the truth. Is that they traded Demarcus Cousins. They are now completely irrelevant. They might as well not even exist. Someone mentioned that the Kings should move to Vancouver. I agree. They might as well. They have nothing. They have committed to another 4 to 5 years of mediocrity at best.
Fair enough. Now it looks like you might be frozen right now. I think we can all hear you, but your thing isn't moving. That's okay. Let us all know. Can you hear Dave? Because I think we're pushing the edge of my envelope of my computer. And but I think everyone can hear us. So let us know. Make sure everyone can hear you as well. And okay, so Tyreek coming back to Sacramento. So that that could be something for them. But you're right. They are slowly moving to that realm, and I just don't see any way out. I mean, I suppose if they hit a home run on a couple of different drafts, they can get right back into it. But I don't know. They haven't proven that they can do that either.
They're gonna have to really hit a few home runs, and the reality is they didn't do this early enough because now the Kings can't bottom out. They can't get into that number 1 pick range. The New Orleans pick isn't going to be as good because they added Boogie, and so they've mortgaged their immediate future for mediocre assets. By the way, I'm unfrozen. I can see it now on Periscope. So
yes, oh, very good, very good. Yeah, we got the CPU toned down a little bit. Now, the other thing is, yeah.
Okay, go ahead. We were starting to get some questions in. Sorry.
Okay, hit him.
It was, how does this affect the standings? And so I'm still of the opinion that Denver is going to be the 8th seed. But just from a talent perspective, who's two more talented people than Anthony Davis and DeMarcus Cousins? I mean, what teams have two guys that you could legitimately say are top 15 in the NBA that aren't in the playoffs? So they really do have a chance of doing it. It really, this will depend on Drew Holiday. Like, how much is Drew Holiday going to be able to bring to the table to amplify the abilities of these guys?
Now, I kind of like Drew. He's a legit starting guard in the league. But I mean, a few years ago with Philly, we had done a breakdown on the top 20 scorers in the league and how they did against the top defenses and the bottom defenses. And Drew Holiday led that group of people in feasting on the bad defenses and doing really bad on the good defenses. So it was sort of like a little bit one of those guys, like, decent player on a bad team looks a lot better. And, there are moments when he's shown he's pretty tough and he's got that kind of Damian Lillard kind of game in a way. But then there are also times when he isn't as tough. So I don't know how much of a mirage he is. I suppose we're really going to have to find out now. But he should get plenty of opportunities for assists with lobs and for, throwing in the post. Now, the other question you mentioned about Gentry, I don't know if Gentry's ever had a low post guy like this to coach.
No. And, well, again, you know what? Like, not only is he a skilled low post player, but his face-up game, his ability to hit threes above the break. Like, he is such a unique talent. Like, in basketball history, how many guys have been able to play the way Boogie does?
Not many. Not
exactly.
That kind of body type, no.
Now, but the other thing is Gentry's on the hot seat. Like, he's underperformed what they expected. And so I think if they make the 8th seed, maybe he keeps his job. If he doesn't, he doesn't, which means another new coach for Boogie.
Well, again, we can't even say it that way because we have no idea Boogie would even stay anyway, right? They could do everything he wants, and he could just leave to get the max anywhere else he wants to go. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but they do have the quote-unquote bird rights for him now because the Pelicans have him, so they could pay him the most, right?
They can. So they have the bird rights. They can go over the cap to keep him. Just like with Drew Holiday. So, right. Yeah, the bird rights go with the contract.
But we have seen in the past, KD is a good example of guys who are willing to bypass a lot of extra money to go to a better situation. Now, the only question there is Boogie ever going to be able to see what a good situation is or not? At this point, the way his psyche is, it's like I don't think any situation is ever perfect for him. So it's an interesting question. And then that opens it up. Who would be the suitors for him? Who have a max slot available to offer him?
Well, I mean, with a little bit of salary shuffling, you could get a guy like, or you could get a team like Miami that could open up space for him. Of course, they would probably want to move Whiteside since they play the same position. Dallas will have cap space available and potentially a lottery pick. So, there's something there. There's a lot. I mean, look, there's not many teams that wouldn't want Boogie. Someone pointed out to me that there's a good chance that the Celtics just didn't want to bring him in from a culture standpoint. And I get that. But talent is important. And if you trust your team culture, your organizational culture, then you have to trust it with a guy who's as talented as Boogie Cousins. That's a risk worth taking. Would the Spurs take Boogie Cousins tomorrow? I bet they would.
No, but the Spurs are in a better situation than the Celtics are, right? Like that's the other thing.
Right.
But again, it is a very important point to make that the Spurs could be a lottery team right now and still wouldn't take him because of that issue, of the way they feel he behaves. That said, like a guy like Brad Stevens, I could probably hear him, say, I don't know what I'm supposed to do. How am I going to communicate with that guy? But I also could kind of get the feeling that he would say, well, we'll figure it out, and we will spend our time to get a way to communicate with the guy. We did see Mike Malone do it, in that short amount of time he was leading the Kings until Boogie went down. And, but that doesn't mean much on such a small sample size. So it's an interesting question all the way around. This is the first time I think we've seen a major trade of a major star that really doesn't shift the power at all, right? This is the Western Conference is not going to change much.
No, not at the top. I mean, not at the top at all. What this would do, again, if this has happened this summer, I think we're looking at a 6 seed New Orleans Pelicans rather than a fighting for the 8th seed.
Right.
But that's still not much of a difference. Yeah, I agree with you. It's just it's really an interesting situation. It's almost unprecedented to have two top 15 players, but neither of them are able to really affect wins and losses as much. Like this is where I think point guards tend to be overvalued but undervalued at the same time, because the offensive initiators in the NBA really do. They carry such a high load, and so this is very much about Drew Holiday. If Drew Holiday can come through and create some offense and make this work, then they will be successful. And it's not a team that, particularly like the Warriors, with their struggles against bigs, would you want to play against Anthony Davis and Demarcus Cousins in a 7-game series? I wouldn't.
Yeah, I mean, it would be interesting in a really big chess match because there would be games where they'd be forced to sit one or the other, but then there would also be games where Kerr would have to come up with some other alternative to combat that, and yeah, it would go back and forth. It'd be very, very interesting to see. And yeah, if you get those guys crashing the boards and wreaking havoc down low on the defensive end, then you can get away with having a shooting guard that's not like an upper level guy. That gets you so far. It gets you into the second round maybe. But then they have to upgrade that position and then pray to God that Boogie re-signs. But I don't know. I guess I would give him even money to re-sign Boogie at this point. I feel like they have the extra money, and if they do well, then that'll at least be another calling card for that. And I believe that Boogie would probably want to go to somewhere where he can win. And I don't think the top 2 or 3 teams in either conference could take him on anyway next year, right?
Yeah, probably not. But you know what? Something just popped in my head that I really think is important to note here. Chris Paul is a free agent this summer.
Okay.
You think Chris Paul would like to go play with Anthony Davis and DeMarcus Cousins? Do you think Chris Paul, Anthony Davis, and DeMarcus Cousins next year could be a top 4 team in the West?
Oh yeah.
It's a good story too. Chris Paul back to New Orleans. I don't know. That could be something really interesting.
Yeah, that is interesting. That's intriguing because, then the only way that happens is if there's a flame out in L.A., which seems very possible at this point because they're not going to be healthy until right before the playoffs, and that doesn't help them necessarily. So let's just pretend that the Clippers lose in 5 games in the second round, right? Okay. That's the doomsday scenario, pretty much. And so Chris Paul's a free agent. Can they do that? Do they have enough room, having already have Davis under contract, to add a max Boogie and a max CP3?
Well, so that's the tricky part, right? They'd have to. I believe they'd have to sign Chris Paul first, and then extend, and then sign Boogie.
Right.
But again, there's the whole Drew Holiday thing.
Yeah, whose agents is whom, and are they already going to each other's weddings and stuff like that, or banana boats? That's the other question there. Because we do know that CP3...
The banana boat factor is important.
It is. And we know that CP3 has already been talking with these guys, right? He wanted to play with, was it the Melo? What was that grouping before?
It's Melo, Wade, CP3, and LeBron. And I know they want to do that at some point before they retire. Yeah, I don't know. But I just think CP3, I think he would be fantastic with those two guys. Hey, everybody, make sure you tweet this out. Share this on Twitter. We want to get in here, and we're about to start taking questions. So let's get some more people in here.
Yeah, we've got a lot of. We have a lot of people here. I love the hearts. I'm going to give myself some hearts right now. Every day I give myself hearts, and I'll give myself some more. I love them. CP3, to answer that question, he's going to be a free agent after this year. So as is Blake, right?
Blake. So, but the Clippers are in a kind of a situation where they need to make some decisions. Is this team gonna ever break through and do anything? This has been a topic of conversation. I'm not breaking news here. This is a topic of conversation all season. Right. Yeah. So You know, I don't know. Do the Clippers re-sign CP3? I mean, you know, we've talked about it quite a bit. Smaller point guard, waning athleticism. He's 31. You know, like maybe they just decide to let him go. Now Doc is not known for that, but maybe this is the year that he does it. And in that case, man, I think New Orleans would be a great place for him. So
yeah, I don't know. Did he enjoy it there the first time? I guess that's the other question.
Well, I think that was more an ownership and other thing issue.
But by the way, that wasn't a leading question. You know, he started his career there. He could have a lot of fond memories of being there and playing there, and he certainly played great. And they did have a little success in the playoffs. That was really fun against the Lakers, I believe. They didn't beat them, but they were there. Wait, wasn't that the series where Pau Gasol hits a game winner? And yes. Kobe is like upset because he didn't hit it because it was a miss of a Kobe shot.
It might have been.
I had that memory, and I was like, "What the f, man!" But anyway, that was a good team. That was almost like they weren't like the Phoenix Suns who like never broke through, but they were on their way to something back then that I remember in New Orleans, and they just then the whole trade, whatever, it fell apart very quickly in the ownership. It's too bad. So, what do you think of the All-Star game, real quick?
I didn't watch it.
Okay. I will admit I watched the first quarter and I kind of fell asleep a little bit and then I started watching Homeland.
Yeah, I didn't watch the All-Star game. Look, man, I like to watch real basketball, and what they do there, that's not real basketball. I mean, it's great, it's fun, and if that's your thing, that's fine. I'm not going to knock you for it. That's just not my deal. And I enjoyed not thinking about basketball for the weekend until Demarcus Cousins got traded. And, I was actually out at dinner right before this and was talking to some people when I got a tweet alert, I think, that there was conversations about DeMarcus being traded. And I knew we were recording tonight, and I was just thinking to myself, there's no way he's getting traded tonight. So we'll be able to talk about all the hypotheticals. Oh, yeah, DeMarcus would be great in Boston and in Chicago or whatever. And he's going to New Orleans, so it's very, very interesting. So we got a question here. It's user Brad Hates You. Any thoughts on what the Bulls will do? So the news that I've heard is that the Bulls have re-engaged with like the Celtics on a Jimmy Butler deal. Have you heard that, Coach?
I have not heard anything re-engaged, if that's what you're saying. But I don't keep my ear to the ground that stuff. I rely on people like you to throw that out there, and then I can kind of think about it. And then I'm the worst about that stuff. But again, the Jimmy Butler for Jay Crowder and Jimmy Butler, it's the same player. Well, it's not the same player. Jimmy Butler is a better offensive player, but I don't know. Does he move? Is he the all-star that the Celtics need to move the needle? Does Bradley not give them enough of what Jimmy Butler does that they can't win without him? I mean, Bradley is an equal defender to Jimmy Butler, except he can't guard like LeBron. But he is a really good. Offensively, Bradley is good. Bradley is 75% of Jimmy Butler. So I don't know. Is that enough to move the needle? I'm assuming, because by the way, I'm assuming that's what the deal would have to be: Avery Bradley, and Jimmy Butler, and a pick or something.
I've heard people say that they wouldn't have given up the Nets pick and Avery Bradley for DeMarcus Cousins, and I disagree with that. I think that that's a good deal for Boston if they could have gotten DeMarcus for that.
The only problem is it's a rental. That's the only question is if DeMarcus had one more year, then okay. But it's tricky because you give up it is a lot to give up to then not have anything 6 months later.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, so that is the trick. Whereas with New Orleans, they didn't give up anything of any real value.
Right. Especially right. That certainly this year's pick won't be that valuable, and even in it's a deep draft, but still. I don't think they're going to get anybody game-changing at 21, 22, whatever they're going to be.
Yeah. Buddy Hield, we don't know what he is. Eric Bledsoe may be traded this year, and I wonder if New Orleans couldn't work something out for him. And now that could be very interesting to get Eric Bledsoe with these guys. That's kind of like the perfect guy. You'd have a nice spearhead, defensive point guard who can actually score. I mean, he's having a fantastic year this year. Got the Boogie connection.
But how is that going to work with Drew Holiday?
Well, I would imagine Drew Holiday would get moved in that deal.
Well, all right. I mean, they're so thin in the backcourt as it is. It just seems weird. But I mean, I don't know. I always felt like Bledsoe should be a two guard. Honestly, I feel like he should be like the secondary guard, and that would be his best role.
Like he did in college, where he played next to Wall.
Or like kind of like what he was doing like with the Clippers a little bit.
Yeah, well, he's for sure a combo guard, but he's improved quite a bit as a playmaker. I actually think he's having like when you look at the guys that are around him, he's really having an amazing year, considering that he's the only real threat aside from Devin Booker.
Yeah. I got to dive into some Phoenix Suns footage. I am remiss. I haven't done it for a while now. In the beginning of the year I did something. So I got to get back and look at what they're doing because it definitely is an untold story. And what I've heard, though, is that, guys are out for their own. The season's sort of in the tank now. And, it's not much of a team concept going on. And they're kind of running the show over there with Earl Watson coaching. But I got to check it out for myself. I saw a really interesting question here on Twitter, and here's what they tweeted me. It's sort of not even a question, but it's an observation. In 08, Powell to the Lakers. In 04, Sheed to the Pistons. In 01, Mutombo to the Sixers, and all made the finals. So I think what he's trying to make a connection to is like a big mid-season trade that like led these guys to the finals. And I don't know, certainly when you look at those teams that they all went to, the Lakers, the Pistons, and the Sixers all had much better talent when they got there.
Yeah, well, they were already kind of contenders. If New Orleans is a 4 seed and they're making this sort of move, then you're like, okay, you get a finals run out of it. But I don't see that happening with this team. They're a year or two away.
Right.
Unless they've got some big moves that we don't know about. And this is the thing, like, we're now like about 4 days away from the deadline. A lot of moving parts right now. There's a lot of stuff happening. This might not even be the only superstar that gets moved. I mean, Carmelo Anthony's still out there. Carmelo Anthony might get moved. I don't know what's going to happen. So maybe New Orleans, maybe Dell Demps has masterminded this huge stack of dominoes, and he's about to knock them all over. We don't know.
Yeah.
Because he gave up nothing. He gave up nothing.
Right, but to trade, and now they don't have much more to give for too much else. But if they try to do that, two sort of major trades in the middle of the year, I can't picture any other team that's ever done very well trying to add that all on the fly and actually that year benefit from it. So it's very precarious. It's a risk, but you know what? You're like you said, what they ended up giving up, it was definitely worth the risk without question.
And we just got a question from Official Mello on Periscope asking if we think the Cavs are going to make a deal. Well, first thing that popped in my head when we saw that Langston Galloway was going to be waived, the Cavs are probably going to sign Langston Galloway, right. I would think. There's their playmaker. That's a big deal. That's a big deal for them.
Yeah, but I don't know. Because Galloway, to me, he's I don't know if I can call him a playmaker like that. I don't know. I mean, he can...
Well, you're not getting like a starting level like 2006 Baron Davis, but
yeah, but I mean, like he can spot up and shoot, and I've seen him do that well. I don't know if he's like runs an offense per se. Were you going to try and say he could do that on a second unit?
I think he could give you those 12 to 15 minutes a night that you need without Kyrie or with LeBron or without LeBron and with Kyrie. I think he could do that.
I mean, I guess it's better than what they have right now, and that's probably the key. Now, Ramona Shelburne was quoted on Twitter saying that the Pelicans were very close on a deal for Jahlil Okafor about 10 days ago, offering a similar package except it didn't include Hield. That's really, really interesting. I mean, I don't know. That's who they could have almost gotten. Imagine that.
Wait, the Pelicans almost got
Jahlil Okafor 10 days ago with this, like the same deal except without Hield. So just adding Hield, you get from Okafor to Boogie. that gives you a good observation of like what this deal is like for the Kings.
Yeah, I mean, look, there's no way to spin this. Like the biggest Kings fan or Kings apologist could not spin this in a way that makes this a good deal for the Kings.
Right? They couldn't Kellyanne Conway it.
No. Hey, speaking of which, on Periscope or Twitter or wherever, do we have any Kings fans? Are there any?
Yes.
Because I need a question or a reaction from a Kings fan.
Are you not entertained?
This is what we need.
Yes, we get a SMH. The Kings are dumb. Okay.
All right.
That's our first response to that one.
Okay. So we got a Kings fan at Jack Hill. Disappointed, depressed, crying. See, this is the kind of stuff. This is how you know this deal is bad, because people are not making excuses. They're not saying, you know what? Buddy Hield is going to be a top 15 player. He's going to be a top 5 shooting guard next year. Guards are harder to get. They're not doing any of those regular talking points that we get. So, look, the Kings screwed the pooch on this. Part of it is because they waited too long. He had more value in the summer. And if you were going to trade him, and I feel like maybe something has happened here in the last month and that has made him kind of fed up and they wanted to move him. And maybe there's some agent stuff behind the sines.
Yeah.
But
Well, I guess the implication you're implying that like there's been some other blow-ups with teammates and they've kind of they've been able to keep it somewhat quiet, and they
exactly.
Yeah, it's possible. I mean, after enough of those, they might have figured out how to keep it buttoned up a little bit more than normal. But we'll never know. Either way, fascinating stuff, and I think we covered as much as we could cover tonight.
Yeah, I totally agree. I just think it's what a trade, and what a way to kick off trade deadline week.
Yeah, I mean, here's a good comment right now. The Kings picked for Jimmer Fredette over Clay and Kawhi, and that's the big one. That's a real big example of what's going on there. So while they might have made a mistake picking those two, picking Jimmer over those two, I certainly have not made a mistake picking you to co-host this show with me tonight. And go over a lot of great stuff. Terrific, really great information. I think we get a lot of everything for everybody.
Thank you. I appreciate that. That's high praise, as Nick Cage would say.
Right.
This is awesome. I'm really glad that we have this platform to kind of we kind of made our thoughts tonight. Like I didn't have my thoughts ahead of time because the news was rolling in while we were rolling. So it was really nice to be able to kind of sound this out with you a little bit. And this is a huge trade. I mean, this is a landscape changing trade in the NBA.
Right, and by the way, it's a landscape-changing show for us. We had this most people have ever had live in a show, and we're going to start doing these on Sunday night, so they're ready. The podcast itself will be on iTunes and Stitcher, ready to go fresh in the morning on Monday for your commute. So we want to record them on the Sunday night now. So it'll be like a little fireside chat we have every Sunday night. You guys can come find us on Periscope, and then hopefully listen to the whole thing on iTunes later as a podcast on your headphones or whatever you listen to it on. And terrific stuff. And so don't forget to check out everything that's going on over at our website. We have some fantastic articles coming out this week across the NBA. And the YouTube channel will have some really good stuff. I think I'm going to focus on LeBron's three-point shooting and why it's 8 or 9 points higher this year than it was last year and doing so much better. That's all. I guess we'll be right back here on Thursday to cover more of the trade deadline stuff.
That's right. We will be live at 2 Eastern on Thursday. So that's 11 Pacific. Is that right? Yeah. 11 Pacific with our trade deadline show, where hopefully if there are any trades between now and then, we may do a quick live show. Is that
Absolutely. We're always ready to jump on, which is exactly why you either have to subscribe to us on Periscope or you can turn on notifications on Twitter and only turn on tweets that have live video attached to it, which I just saw today and I've been tweeting it out. So you don't have to even follow us on Periscope. Just turn the notification on for live video on Twitter and then it'll alert you right away. And you'll know right away that we're doing a really cool show that you can then watch later if you wanted to, but you can watch it live, part of it, the whole thing, whatever you like, and also give us feedback and questions on Periscope or Twitter. So, fantastic stuff. Thank you, Dave, for coming on the show. Another episode's in the books. Stay tuned for lots more coming up this week. And don't forget, sports fans, at B-Ball Breakdown, not a channel, we're a conversation. You win? Are you in, Dave?
Always.